Are you just starting off your web development journey and trying to figure out which language will best help you get your foot into the door? PHP and NodeJS are two languages that offer entry-level opportunities. On one hand, we have Node.js. He's kind of like the new guy on the block. Because of its age, the average Node.js developer has less years of experience than the average PHP developer. Node.js is also commonly offered at coding boot camps, which are designed to transition people from other careers into computer programming. Then, on the other hand, we have PHP. Now, many developers like to pick on PHP, and that's because people love rooting for the underdog, and PHP is far from the underdog. About 78.9% of all websites are written in PHP. That means tons of jobs at all levels. So which language is better? I'm going to start with a quantitative analysis based on job postings on Indeed.com. Then I'm going to give you a qualitative analysis based on my personal experience. And finally, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you some ways to do your own quantitative and qualitative analysis based specifically on your location or desired locations and your career goals. First thing I did was I searched on Indeed.com, and I left the location blank for all these searches, by the way, okay? So this is just a total throughout Indeed.com. When I searched for the number of jobs, including PHP, there was 18,586. When I searched for Node.js, there was 3,802. Now that's almost 5 times more PHP jobs than Node.js jobs. But when I searched PHP Junior, I got 1,053 jobs versus Node.js Junior, where I got 850. Now I use junior as a search term because junior developer is a common term for an entry-level web developer. But there are other terms that might also include entry-level applicants, and not all jobs labeled junior are entry level. Some junior developer jobs want 0 to 2 years of experience, and some say they want 3+ years of experience. Now, a lot of developers complain about the junior jobs and say 3+ years of experience, and you don't necessarily have to work for 3 years to get one of these jobs. But if it says 3+ years, you are going to have to show more experience in your portfolio than if it says 0 to 2 years. So even though there's a lot more jobs for PHP as a whole, as far as entry level goes, Node.js and PHP are pretty compatible. What it's going to really boil down to is what other technologies you want to learn. Now, Node.js and PHP are both server-side languages, but the other technologies they're going to want you to know, the complete package, is going to be, generally speaking, a little bit different. I'm going to get into that a lot more in my qualitative analysis, but I'm just going to briefly show you here what the results looked like when I searched PHP and Node.js with different technologies following it. The most significant finding here is going to be where we get to these front-end frameworks. As you can see, 32.5% of jobs that include Node.js in the post also include Angular, and 39.85% of jobs that include Node.js in the job also include React. A large majority of the Node.js jobs are going to want you to know a major front-end framework, usually Angular or React. Whereas with PHP, we have 11% and 13.5%. Many of you have probably heard the term full stack developer. It's all the rage, right? A lot of the coding boot camps, they say we're going to make you a full stack web developer. The thing is, the classic definition of a web development software stack is different than the more modern definition of a software stack. Different types of technologies are included. So you take a traditional web development language like PHP, it's included in a lot of the traditional stacks such as LAMP stack whereas Node.js is included more of the modern software stacks like Mean or Mern. Let me show you. LAMP stack is the most popular web development software stack. It's the software stack that WordPress is written in, and this is what it includes. The L is for Linux. That's the operating system. An operating system manages the interaction between a computer's hardware and its software. A is for Apache. That's the web server software. What a web server does is it serves up static files, images, things like that to the end user. When you enter in a web address in your browser, the web server software is going to serve you the content that you're requesting. MySQL is what we use for the database. It's to manage a SQL database. SQL is a structured relational database. The P is for PHP, which is our server-side programming language. Now let's look at MERN stack. The M is for MongoDB. That's what they're using for the database, and it is a NoSQL database. It is not a structured relational database. It is more document-based. The E is for Express.js. That's the web server software. In LAMP stack, Apache is pretty much already written for you, but you're going to, you might want to configure certain things. Express.js is a framework for you to write your own server page. React.js is the front-end framework, and Node.js is a server-side programming language. So if you see the differences here, they both have web server software, they both have a server-side programming language, they both have a database. In LAMP, we're using a relational database, whereas in MERN, we're using a NoSQL database that's document-based. And for LAMP, we're including the operating system. In MERN, we're not including the operating system. Instead, we're including a front-end framework. Mean is another common one where instead of an R here, there's an A, and we would just replace the React with Angular. Now, with all that being said, my qualitative analysis that I'm about to give you from my own personal experience is going to make more sense when you base these languages on the frameworks that they're commonly a part of. Now, also a disclaimer, I'm giving general trends that I find. That doesn't mean there's not exceptions. There's all kinds of programming jobs using all kinds of programming languages. I'm not saying you can't get a job outside of what I'm saying is more plentiful. I'm just telling you the jobs that are going to be more plentiful in PHP versus the jobs that will be more plentiful in Node.js. The first thing that you really want to think about when deciding between PHP and Node.js, are you more interested in writing the code that's going to interact with the user? This means making like sliders, menus. Are you interested in making things pretty? Are you interested in making things user-friendly? Are you interested in making things accessible and really learning a hardcore front-end framework in order to interact with the end user? If you are interested in the front-end code, then Node.js might be a better language for you. Because a lot of the jobs for Node.js, even though Node.js is a server-side language, a lot more of your job is going to be dealing with the front-end framework than the back-end. A lot of them don't really require you to know much about databases or operating systems. Most of the actual server-side functions that you're going to implement into your applications are going to be created through outside libraries or services. Do you really want to write server-side logic? Are you interested in doing a lot of your own validation, writing a lot of code to interact with the database? Are you really interested in interacting with the operating system and doing a lot of your own logic on the server? With PHP, there's more jobs where you don't have to know front-end frameworks. There are some full-stack jobs that want you to know a front-end framework. jQuery is definitely good to know if you're going into PHP as far as on the front end, but you don't necessarily have to be really familiar with something like Angular or React. Another language where you'd be more likely to be operating in the back like that is Python. That's not included in this video. If you want me to do a follow-up video comparing the job market for PHP and Python, comment below and let me know. Also, there's a back-end PHP framework called Drupal that's also very common. A lot of jobs want you to know Drupal. PHP is also a lot more common to interact with a SQL database. If you want to concentrate in the back, if you're not interested in front-end code, right? If you don't want to write any front-end code, if you'd rather concentrate on interacting with the database, validation, things of that nature, I would stick with the PHP. Experience with Linux, which I do have lots of beginners Linux command line tutorials if you want to check them out, are helpful to have on your resume with PHP. In order to do your own research based on your individual goals and locations that you wish to work, the first thing that you can do is, just like I started off, go to Indeed.com as well as other job boards to search the postings. But instead of just counting numbers, you're going to want to actually read through the postings. Now, in addition to Indeed.com, there's other websites such as Glassdoor that you can look at. There's also more specialized job boards that specialize in tech, that specialize in diversity in tech. Check out the video description to see links to some of my favorite job boards. So here's Indeed.com, right? So say you want to work in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We could start off by searching junior developer and just seeing what the junior developer jobs look like in 0 to 3 years of experience. So this looks like a good one. Solid foundational knowledge of SQL, natural problem solver. All you really see that you need to know here is some SQL. Now let's search PHP in Tulsa, Oklahoma and see what comes up. 25 jobs for PHP. And let's just see, okay, this one, 1 to 3 years of experience. If you could build a decent portfolio in a few months, this might be a job you might be able to get into. They want you to be comfortable with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They want you to have experience with object-oriented design and programming techniques. It looks like on the server side here, they want you to know actually C#. So this job looks like it's really not in PHP, and it's going to want you to know SQL Server or Oracle. If you learn Postgres, by the way, Postgres is an open source free database, and you can do the same types of things with Postgres as you can with SQL Server or Oracle. Because Postgres is free and open source, it's easy to play around with on your own. And if you have that experience, remember that will transfer to these kind of jobs. This is for a technical operations specialist, so it's not really for a programmer. And again, for this, we are seeing SQL experience. Here they'll take MySQL, Oracle, MS SQL. Knowing PHP is a plus. So what I'm getting here is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they really need some SQL developers so far. That's what I'm seeing here. And just to see what's going on with NodeJS, there's only 3 jobs for NodeJS. Also, another good thing to do if you decide that you want to go into NodeJS, or even if you don't, is to contact local coding boot camps. I'm not saying to pay them money. You could learn what they teach yourself. But if you go to their websites or call them and contact them, you can find out what they're teaching. And what they teach their students is what their students need to know in order for them to get students jobs. So if there's a coding boot camp in your city and they're teaching React, there's probably a reason why. If you have multiple coding boot camps in your city, look on their websites, give them a call, see what technologies they're teaching. And usually they do teach a Node.js software stack. Sometimes they do teach other software stacks if in the local market there just aren't a lot of Node.js jobs. If you have 3 coding boot camps in your area and all 3 of them are teaching React, I would go with React. If you have 3 coding boot camps in your area and they're all teaching MySQL and MongoDB, I would work on MySQL and MongoDB. Look at what type of projects the students are expected to complete by the end of the boot camp. That's going to give you an idea of what your portfolio should look like, because the people coming out of that boot camp are the people that you're going to be competing for jobs with. So if you have a better portfolio than those boot camp graduates, that's going to give you a one up. Thank you for watching my video. Please comment below and let me know if you have any other questions. Let me know if you'd like me to do that video on Python versus PHP. Have an awesome day, and until next time, happy coding.